I wasn't looking for secrets. I found them anyway, hidden in her phone, in a folder named Taxes. There's a strange kind of peace and routine, the kind you don't realize you rely on until it's shattered. Every morning was the same. I'd wake up at 6:15 to the sound of the old curate groaning to life. My wife, Hannah, would already be downstairs in her robe, scrolling her email, sipping coffee like clockwork. She loved her structure, kept our cabinets labeled, the laundry sorted by texture, not color. She was the kind of woman who folded grocery bags and kept them in a drawer, just in case. We'd been married 12 years. Lived in a small town outside Portland, Oregon. Comfortable. Predictable. We had a golden retriever named Molly and a back porch view that looked out over acres of pine and rain-soaked hills. No kids, though we tried once. That's another story. I teach you history at the high school 2 towns over. She's a digital content manager for some national apparel brand, mostly remote, lots of Slack calls, screen time, and what she called the creative grind. I never really understood what she did. But she made good money and seemed to love it, so I didn't ask too many questions. Mondays were her busiest days. Back-to-back Zooms. She'd always retreat to the upstairs guest room, her office, though I'd noticed she started locking the door during meetings. Said it helped with focus. Fair enough. I never questioned it. That Monday started like any other. Rain tapping the window. Dog whining for breakfast. Hannah moving through the kitchen like choreography. She kissed me on the cheek, handed me my travel mug, and told me not to forget about the gutter cleaning estimate. Then she was gone, upstairs, door locked, voice echoing faintly through the hallway above. Nothing felt off. Nothing felt strange. Until that night. I was sitting on the couch, half watching a rerun of The Office, when I realized her phone was still on the kitchen counter. She never leaves it behind, she's practically tethered to it. I called up the stairs. Hey, babe, your phone's down here. No answer. I walked up and knocked on the guest room door. Han. She opened it, looking flushed, hair slightly out of place. Oh, thanks. I must have left it charging. She took it quickly, too quickly, holding it like it might break in my hands. I shrugged, didn't think much of it. But something in her eyes stayed with me, like a mask slipping for half a second. She didn't come down for dinner that night. Said she had a late Zoom with a vendor on the East Coast. I ate leftover chili and watched Molly chew a sock she'd fished from the laundry basket. The silence in the house felt loud. Tuesday evening, she went to yoga. Left in a rush, phone in hand, purse swinging on her shoulder. I stayed back to grade essays. Molly curled up beside me, snoring like a tiny freight train. Half an hour in, my laptop died. I went to grab Hannah's charger from the guest room. She never liked me going through her things, not out of secrecy, just a weird boundary thing. But I figured a charger wasn't exactly sacred. I opened the drawer. No charger. But her work tablet was still plugged in. Next to it, her personal phone, again. She must have forgotten it in her rush to leave. I hesitated. I wish I could say I was noble. That I respected her privacy. But something gnawed at me, the way she snatched it yesterday, the strange lock on the office door, the too smooth smile. The phone lit up as I picked it up. No passcode. Just Face ID, which hadn't registered me yet. I turned it toward her photo on the lock screen. Unlocked. Messages. Photos. Files. I didn't mean to go snooping, I swear to God, I didn't. But then I saw the folder. It was buried 2 levels deep inside her Cloud Drive app. Titled simply, Taxes. I opened it. And I stopped breathing. There's a particular kind of cold that doesn't come from outside. It starts in your chest. Creeps through your limbs. It's the kind of cold you feel when the reality you trusted quietly crumbles beneath your feet. That's what it felt like, standing there in the half-lit guest room, holding my wife's phone, staring at the folder named Taxes. I tapped it open. Inside were videos. Dozens. All time-stamped. All neatly labeled in the same precise format. Session _031_HHCam. MOV. Edit _042_kitchen. MP4 inch. Raw _cut studio light. MOV. Each one with a subtle but deliberate kind of naming, like it was part of a larger system. Like someone cared about organization. Continuity. Production. I tapped one at random. A loading spinner appeared. My thumb hovered over the pause button. I didn't even know what I was expecting. Maybe home renovation footage. A saved Zoom recording. Some boring work content for her brand. But when the video began, I knew immediately I had crossed a threshold I couldn't walk back from. It started with static. Then came the sound, breathing, heavy, rhythmic. A man's voice. Then hers. Her voice. Laughing. Whispering. And then her face filled the frame. My wife. Dressed in a black lace bodysuit I had never seen before. Her hair curled the way she never wore it for me. Makeup darker, heavier. Lips parted. She looked straight into the lens. "You like that?" she whispered. To the camera. To someone. To everyone. I slammed the phone face down on the desk. My hands were shaking. I stared at the wall for what felt like an hour, listening to my own heartbeat thunder in my ears. A dozen questions collided in my mind at once, none of them complete. None of them answerable. I picked the phone back up. Tapped into the info on the file. It had been uploaded to her cloud 3 weeks ago. Time-stamped for a Wednesday, the same week she told me she was burned out and needed more space to work from the guest room. There were more. Too many more. I opened another. This time, a different room. A hotel. Low lighting. The camera stationary, probably on a tripod. She entered the frame with a man. I couldn't see his face clearly, just the back of his head, his voice muffled, distorted. She was laughing again. Not the laugh I knew. Not the laugh that came when I burned toast or made a dumb history pun. No. This laugh was seductive. Performed. Hungry. And God help me, she was playing to the camera. There were cuts. Angles. Overlays. She, or someone, had edited this. It wasn't just casual cheating. It was cinematic. It was intentional. I backed out of the folder. Switched to her text messages. Scrolled through names. Nothing stood out. Then I saw it. A contact saved as S. Just that. One letter. No photo. No emoji. I tapped it open. Got the final cut. Looks incredible. You're a natural, H. Uploading tonight. Same tags. Category, married/secret. You're at 28,000 views. I stared at that last message like it was written in fire. 28,000. My wife's body. My wife's voice. My wife's face, viewed by strangers. Cataloged. Tagged. Ranked. Consumed. I scrolled higher. This next shoot, I want the wedding ring visible. People are eating that up. Let him think you're still, faithfully married. Adds to the thrill. Let him think. They were talking about me. The room started spinning. I stumbled to the hallway and sat on the steps. Molly trotted over, resting her head on my knee. Her eyes blinked up at me, clueless. Trusting. I think I was crying. Or maybe I wasn't. I honestly can't remember. The only thing I do remember is the way everything in my life suddenly rearranged itself, like a puzzle I thought I'd finished, only to discover all the pieces were lies. I don't know how long I sat there. The front door opened. "Hey." Hannah's voice called through the house. "Sorry, yoga ran late." Footsteps. Keys on the counter. Her voice came closer. "You hungry?" I was thinking Thai tonight. I wiped my face. Stood. Turned. She smiled when she saw me. Ponytail. Yoga pants. Slight flush in her cheeks. Completely normal. That's what gutted me the most, how normal she looked. "How was your day?" she asked. I stared at her for a moment. Then said the only thing I could manage without exploding. "Can I see your phone for a second?" Her smile froze. Just for a beat. Then came the hesitation. "So small you'd miss it, unless you were looking." "What for?" she asked, voice too casual. And just like that, I knew. Even if I hadn't found the folder, even if I hadn't seen the videos, this moment would have told me everything. I stepped forward. Calm. "You left it up here earlier," I said. "Just wanted to check something." She held the phone tighter. "I mean, it's just work stuff. You wouldn't understand half of it," she laughed, trying to move past me. I blocked her gently. And then, for the first time in our 12 years, I saw her eyes harden. Not with anger. Not with fear. With calculation. "You went through it, didn't you?" she said quietly. I didn't answer. She sighed. Not nervously. Not guiltily. Like she was tired. "Okay," she said, lowering her voice. "Let's talk." She didn't invite me to sit. She just walked past me into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. The casualness of it made my stomach twist. I followed her slowly, the house suddenly feeling like a stage I didn't recognize. Molly stayed on the stairs, whining softly, as if even the dog sensed the air had changed. "You went through my phone," Hannah said again, but this time it wasn't a question. Her voice was low, clipped. "How much did you see?" I didn't answer right away. I was watching her hands. They weren't trembling. They weren't even clenched. She sipped the water, eyes fixed on the window over the sink like she was watching for a cue. Finally, I said, "Enough." A muscle in her jaw ticked. "Define enough." "I know about the videos," I said. My voice cracked halfway through, but I didn't care. "I know about all of it." She closed her eyes, just for a second. When she opened them, there was no denial. No apology. Just a kind of cool resignation. "I figured you'd find out eventually," she said quietly. That hit harder than the videos. Eventually. Like this had an expiration date. Like I was just another logistical problem she was managing. I stepped closer. "Who is he?" She didn't flinch. "Does it matter?" My hands tightened at my sides. "You tell me." She set the glass down, perfectly aligned with the coaster. "He's a producer. We met online. He runs a site. He asked me to." She stopped, corrected herself. "He offered me a chance to feel alive again." I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "Alive? By letting strangers watch you?" "You don't get it," she snapped, and for the first time I saw a flash of the woman I used to know, passionate, stubborn, unwilling to be cornered. "You spend your life teaching bored kids about the Constitution. I'm stuck in this house, answering emails, cooking dinners. This," she gestured vaguely, "was something that was mine." "No," I said softly. "It was never just yours. It was ours. Our marriage. Our home. Our trust. She looked away. You think I wanted you to find out like this? You think I planned for this? I don't know what you planned, I said. I just know I'm standing here looking at my wife like she's a stranger. The room went quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Outside, rain tapped the windows. The whole world felt muted, like we were underwater. Why the wedding ring? I asked finally. Why let him tag it like that? Her eyes flicked up to mine. For a second, she looked almost ashamed. Because it sells, she whispered. That's what he said. Married women do numbers. I felt something break inside me. Not like a snap, more like a slow tearing. Years of trust unraveling thread by thread. How long? My voice was barely audible. 10 months, she said after a pause. Maybe 11. 10 months, I repeated, tasting the words like poison. 10 months of lying to my face. It wasn't lying, she said quickly. It was, compartmentalizing. That word, compartmentalizing, did something to me. All the rage I'd been holding back rushed up like a wave. But instead of shouting, I just laughed. A low, bitter laugh that echoed in the kitchen. You really rehearsed that, didn't you? I said. Compartmentalizing. Producer. Views. Married women do numbers. You sound like a press release. She winced. Mike. No, I cut her off. You don't get to say my name like that. Not right now. She folded her arms, retreating behind her own posture. So what now? You're going to leave? Throw everything away? Post about it online like some scorned husband? That stung because it was exactly what I'd thought about doing. Telling someone. Anyone. Making her shame public the way she'd made her body public. But in that moment, I realized the power dynamic had shifted. She wasn't just afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing control. I took a step back, letting silence stretch between us until she finally looked up. You don't get to decide what happens next, I said, my voice steady now. Not anymore. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I'm done being the guy in the dark, I continued. I'm done being a prop in your show. Her eyes darted to her phone on the counter. Reflex. Habit. Like she wanted to grab it, to text him, to salvage something. I reached over, picked it up, and held it out to her. Keep it, I said. You're going to need it. And then I turned and walked out of the kitchen, down the hall, past the photos of us in happier times, the Grand Canyon trip, the Christmas morning in matching pajamas, each frame suddenly feeling like evidence from a crime scene. Behind me, I heard her voice for the first time crack. Mike, please. But I didn't stop. I went into the garage, shut the door, and sat on the cold cement floor with Molly beside me, my hands gripping the edge of an old workbench. Somewhere above me, muffled through the ceiling, I could hear Hannah pacing. Not crying. Not calling. Just pacing. For the first time since this started, I felt a strange, terrifying clarity. This wasn't a mistake she'd stumbled into. This was a life she'd chosen. And now I had to choose mine. The next morning, I drove to work like a man pretending to live a life that still made sense. The windshield wipers moved in perfect rhythm, slicing through Oregon drizzle, but my mind was fogged. I parked in the school lot, walked through the halls with a smile that felt stapled to my face. Said good morning. Nodded. Pretended. But I didn't hear a single student that day. Couldn't tell you what I lectured on. Something about the War of 1812, maybe. I stood at the whiteboard talking about forgotten battles while replaying her voice in my head. It was something that was mine. What did that even mean? What was I supposed to do with that? By 2:15, I was sitting alone in the empty classroom, the blinds half drawn, my hands shaking above the keyboard. I wasn't planning on digging deeper. But I needed a face. A name. I remembered the messages from S, the clipped business tone, the performance talk. Married women do numbers. The way he spoke about my wife like she was just a piece of inventory. I checked her cloud account again. I still had access. She hadn't revoked the login, maybe she hadn't thought I'd dare go back in. This time I opened the subfolder named Studio Edits. Dozens of video thumbnails loaded. In one of them, I saw the corner of a man's face. Blurred. Cropped. But it was enough. I screenshotted it. Then I did something I'd never done before, I joined the site where the videos had been posted. It took less than 2 minutes. No real security. Just an email and a password. The homepage was slick, cold. A marketplace. Thumbnails of people with faces blurred, wedding rings highlighted, captions like wife secretly records playdate with boss. Mom of 3 gets caught loving it. She says he's just a coworker, she lied. And then I saw her. Hannah. Ich. That was the username. No photo. Just initials. But I knew that profile. The curve of her neck. The laugh. The robe from our master bathroom. Our bedroom wall, in frame. Her video had over 37,000 views. There was a link to the uploader, Studio Blue_X. I clicked it. The account had hundreds of uploads. Some of them solo videos. Some with different women. Some with interviews. Behind-the-scenes clips. Tutorials for new talent. And in one of the videos, there he was. Not blurred. Not edited. Just talking casually into the camera about his process. He looked maybe mid-30s. Lean. Clean-shaven. Cocky. The kind of guy who'd wear designer cologne to a grocery store and think every woman smiled at him because she wanted him. He was standing in what looked like a hotel room, walking the viewer through lighting setups. You want soft angles for the ring glint, he was saying. Let it catch the eye. Subconsciously signals forbidden, which spikes the view rate. He smiled at the camera. This next shoots with H, she's gold. Clean face. Natural sound. Gets the fantasy just right. Real wife vibes. My stomach turned. Real wife vibes. My wife. There was a knock on the classroom door. I jumped. It was Adam, the school's IT guy. Hey man, Wi-Fi outage upstairs. You seeing it too? I nodded dumbly, unable to speak. He waved. Alright, cool. Let me know if it lags here. When the door clicked shut again, I just sat there, staring at the screen. That man, that stranger, had been in my house. Had been inside my wife. Had talked about her like a product. This next shoots with H. I didn't realize I was crying until the tears hit the keys. Not loud. Not angry. Just leaking pain. It wasn't just the sex. Not anymore. It was the production of it. The packaging. The sale. And I knew what I had to do. That night, I didn't go home. I drove past our house, the porch light already on, the shape of her silhouette moving behind the curtains, and kept going. I parked outside a Marriott about 30 minutes out of town and sat in the lot, watching the sliding glass doors. If he was real, if he wasn't just some ghost operating behind a screen, he'd need a place to shoot. And this hotel had the look, sterile, quiet, forgettable. I walked in and asked for a room. While I waited, I made small talk with the receptionist. I asked if they got a lot of film crews. She said sometimes. There was a guy who booked the same room every third Thursday of the month. Kind of a regular, she said, laughing. We call him Tripod Guy. Real professional. Quiet. I smiled, paid in cash, took the key, and went to my room. Didn't sleep. At 2:11 a.m. I heard the elevator ding. Then wheels rolling, a suitcase. And then I saw him. From the crack in my door, I watched him pass. It was him. Tripod guy. Studio Blue _X. The man who'd reduced my marriage to a category tag. And as he disappeared down the hallway, I felt the strangest thing rise up in me, not hatred, not even vengeance. Just this icy, absolute clarity. Tomorrow, I wasn't going to confront my wife. Tomorrow, I was going to confront him. I didn't go to work the next morning. I didn't even drive home. Instead, I sat in my rented Marriott room with the curtains drawn, watching the hallway camera feed I'd set up on my laptop. Years of teaching high school had made me patient. Years of being married to Hannah had made me quiet. Both were now my weapons. At 9:42 a.m., the man they called Tripod Guy left his room. Same black duffel bag. Same cool expression. I followed him at a distance, like my body already knew the choreography. He walked to the parking garage, loaded his bag into the back of a gray Ford Explorer, and pulled out his phone. He was texting while he drove. I memorized the plate number. I tailed him onto the highway, keeping 2 cars between us. He headed west, toward the outskirts of town, where the office parks fade into strip malls and cheap hotels. Finally, he turned into a small business park, anonymous brick units with tinted windows. No signage. Just numbers. He parked outside Unit 108. Car idling. Then he got out, duffel in hand, and swiped a card at the door. Inside. I waited 5 minutes, then killed my engine and walked up. The door was cracked. I pushed it open. The room inside was a studio. Not a TV studio. Not a photography space. A porn factory. Tripods lined the walls. Lights. Soft boxes. A makeshift bed in the center of the room. Backdrops rolled down like theater curtains. On one table sat a laptop with multiple screens showing thumbnails of women, all blurred, all tagged. My wife's face stared out from one of the screens, frozen mid-laugh. And then he walked out from behind the backdrop. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice smooth. He didn't look surprised, just mildly curious, like I was a delivery guy. "You're Studio Blue," I said. His brow furrowed. "We don't use real names here." "Who are you?" I took a step closer. "I'm the husband." That got his attention. He straightened, eyes flicking to the door as if calculating distance. "Look, man." "No," I said, voice steady. "You don't get to look man me. You don't get to call my wife H. You don't get to turn my life into your content." He put his hands up slowly, like he was approaching a wild animal. "Hey, I didn't force her. She came to me. Said she wanted to do it. Said her husband was boring, absent." "Stop." My voice echoed off the walls. "You don't get to rewrite me." He tilted his head. "So what's the plan? You're gonna hit me? Smash my equipment? Post about it online? You think anyone will care? This is the internet. You're a hashtag at best." The way he said it, like a dare, made something inside me go very still. "I'm not here to hit you," I said. "I'm here to end this." I walked past him to the laptop. He moved to block me but stopped when he saw my face. On the screen was a folder labeled HH Master Archive. Inside, every clip, every edit, every thumbnail of Hannah. "Delete it," I said quietly. He laughed, a short bark. "You don't delete money, pal. Those videos pay my rent. Pay her too. She begged me for this." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small black flash drive. You're going to copy every file onto this drive, I said, and then you're going to take it off your servers. All of it. Today. He smirked. Or what? You'll call the cops. Tell them your wife cheated and got filmed. Good luck with that. I took a step closer until we were face to face. Or I go to your hosting provider. Your payment processors. Your advertisers. I've got every file, every message you sent her. I can burn your little empire down before lunch. His smirk faltered. I teach history, I said softly. I know how empires fall. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then he looked away, jaw tight. You think deleting it fixes you, he muttered. You think it makes her faithful again? No, I said. But it gives me back the choice you stole from me. He hesitated, then sat at the laptop. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. This is going to cost me, he muttered. Good, I said. One by one, files began transferring to the flash drive. Each progress bar felt like a lifeline. You should know, he said after a minute, eyes still on the screen, she wasn't faking. She liked it. She liked me. This wasn't just money for her. I didn't rise to the bait. I just watched the bars fill, my hands clenched into fists so tight my knuckles ached. When the last file finished, I pulled the drive from the port and pocketed it. He reached to close the laptop, but I put a hand on it. You take it down today, I said. If I see even one clip online tomorrow, I go public. All of it. Your name. Your face. Your studio. His eyes flicked up to mine. You're serious. I've never been more serious in my life. I turned and walked to the door. As I stepped out into the bright Oregon morning, the flash drive heavy in my pocket, I realized my hands were trembling not from rage, but from something stranger, a kind of grief mixed with freedom. Like a man walking out of a burning building who still smells the smoke on his clothes. Back in the car, I sat for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. I had the files. I had the proof. I had the power to end his little operation. But I still didn't know what to do about Hannah. When I pulled into our driveway an hour later, the porch light was still on, even though it was full daylight. Through the window I saw her sitting at the kitchen table, phone in hand, staring at nothing. For the first time in 12 years, she looked small. And I had no idea what I was going to say when I walked through that door. When I walked through the front door, the house was too quiet. Not peaceful. Not serene. Just hollow. The kind of silence that presses against your ribs. Hannah looked up from the table like she hadn't moved since I left. She wore the same sweatshirt from yesterday, mine, actually, like putting it on could rewind time. She didn't say anything at first. Her phone was on the table in front of her, face down. A cold cup of tea sat beside it, untouched. There were 2 empty chairs between us. They felt like an ocean. You were gone all night, she finally said. I didn't answer. I just walked past her, into the kitchen, opened a drawer, and dropped the flash drive inside. The sound it made, a tiny plastic thump, echoed like a gunshot. She stared at the drawer, then back at me. What is that? You know what it is. Her eyes widened. You, her voice caught. You found him. I didn't nod. I didn't need to. She looked away, pressing her knuckles to her mouth. Mike, what did you do? I gave him a choice, I said. She swallowed hard. And he made the right one. Silence stretched between us. Not just awkward, seismic. Years of shared life vibrating underneath the weight of what wasn't being said. Finally, she whispered, I didn't want to hurt you. I let out a breath that felt like it had been locked in my chest for a decade. Then why did you? She didn't answer. Not right away. She just sat there, curling into herself. I thought I could keep it separate, she said. I thought if I never brought it into our space, it wouldn't touch us. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from her, folding my hands. You filmed it in our bedroom, I said. She flinched. Only once. That doesn't make it better, Hannah. She looked up at me then, really looked, and for the first time, I saw a kind of rawness in her that hadn't been there in months. Not guilt. Not shame. Grief. I was lost, she said, her voice breaking. After the miscarriage, after the silence, after everything. I just felt like a ghost in my own life. And he made me feel visible. I stared at her for a long time. That part one hadn't heard before. You never told me you felt invisible, I said quietly. You never asked. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. I thought I was being supportive. Respectful. Giving her space to grieve. But maybe I'd built so much space she thought I wasn't even there anymore. Still. I didn't cheat on you, I said. I didn't sleep with someone else and call it therapy. Her lips quivered. I know. Tears filled her eyes. I know I ruined everything. I know it. I wake up in the middle of the night and I want to crawl out of my skin. I just wanted one thing that wasn't broken. You chose him, I said. You chose the camera. The clicks. The validation from strangers. She nodded slowly, shame washing over her like waves. And I hate myself for it. For a moment, the room filled with nothing but our breathing. Then she asked, barely above a whisper, do you want a divorce? I looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman I married somewhere underneath the wreckage. Not the woman from the videos. Not the curated fantasy. The one I held in the hospital when we lost our baby. The one who cried into my chest and whispered, I don't know how to do this anymore. The truth hit me like a gut punch. I didn't know either. I don't know what I want, I said. But I know what I don't want, and that's to make a decision today out of anger. She nodded slowly, tears spilling silently down her cheeks. I'm going to stay at my brother's for a while, I said. I need space to think. Not silence. Not avoidance. Just time. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue. Then stopped. And whispered, okay. I stood. Walked to the front door. Picked up my keys. Hesitated. When I looked back, she was still sitting at the table, shoulders shaking, holding her own wrist like she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. I didn't say goodbye. I just left. As I stepped outside into the gray afternoon, something strange happened, the air felt different. Thinner. Sharper. Like breathing had become harder, and easier, at the same time. And in that moment, walking down the front steps of what had once been our home, I realized something brutal and honest. You don't always get closure. Sometimes, you just get a door. And the choice to walk through it. My brother lived 20 minutes away, in a one-bedroom apartment above a bakery that always smelled like burnt sugar and cinnamon. He didn't ask questions when I showed up with a duffel bag and hollow eyes. Just opened the door, handed me a beer, and said, couch pulls out. I'll grab blankets. That first night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the sagging pull-out mattress, listening to the soft hum of the fridge and the occasional laughter from the bakery's night shift below. My phone buzzed twice. Hannah. I didn't open the messages. Because what do you say to someone who set fire to the life you built together, then called to tell you they miss the warmth? By the second day, I told my brother the bare minimum. She cheated. It was bad. It wasn't just physical. He didn't push. But I saw the questions behind his eyes. The disbelief. He liked Hannah. We all did. She used to bake his favorite ginger cookies every Christmas. Once, she stayed up until 3 a.m., helping him write a job application because he sucked at selling himself. And now she was this. People don't disappear overnight. They erode. On the third day, I called in sick again. My students probably thought I'd finally taken a vacation. Or died. Neither was far off. I spent hours walking the city. No destination. Just one foot in front of the other. At one point, I ended up outside a bookstore where Hannah and I had bought our first shared coffee table book. National Parks of the Northwest. We never made it to most of them. Inside, I watched couples browse the aisles. Hands brushing. Private jokes whispered. The kind of closeness that feels invisible until it's ripped away. I left without buying anything. That night, my phone buzzed again. Hannah. I'm seeing a therapist. I thought you'd want to know. I didn't reply. But I stared at the message for a long time. Not because it softened anything. Not because I was impressed. Because it made me realize she still wanted to be seen by me. Even now. I should have felt power in that. But all I felt was tired. On the fifth day, I finally broke the silence. I called my best friend from college, Nate. He was the best man at our wedding. Hadn't seen him in a year, maybe more. When he answered, I didn't even say hello. She made videos, I said. And put them online. Real ones. For strangers. There was a long pause on the line. Then, Jesus Christ, man. I laughed. It came out sharp. Ugly. You win worst husband story of the year, he said gently. Want a medal or a bottle of something that burns? I met him that night. We sat on a bench by the river, passing a flask back and forth like two kids who didn't know how to handle grown-up pain. He didn't say much. That's why I called him. Eventually, I asked, do I look stupid? He didn't even blink. No, he said. You look betrayed. That's different. I nodded. But yeah, he added. You also look a little stupid. And for the first time since this all began, I laughed like I meant it. When I got back to my brother's, there was a package at the door. No return label. I brought it inside, sat on the edge of the couch, and opened it carefully. Inside was a small hardcover book, The National Parks of the Northwest. Inside the front cover, she'd written in neat blue ink. There's a trail near Crater Lake. You always said you wanted to hike it with me. I'm sorry I didn't go. I'm sorry for everything. I hope one day, you still go. Even if it's not with me. H. I closed the book and set it aside. Didn't cry. Didn't throw it. Just sat there in the dim light of a borrowed apartment, wondering if closure was a myth or just something we learned to live without. Because sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who once made you feel safest. And when they become the danger, you're left wandering the ruins of something that used to be home. 3 weeks passed. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't unlock the flash drive. I didn't speak to Hannah. I lived out of my brother's spare closet, rotated the same 3 shirts, made dinner twice a week out of guilt, and told people I was just going through something. Everyone assumed it was burnout. Or grief. Or maybe a midlife identity shift. Nobody ever guesses betrayal. They think marriage ends in shouting matches, affairs caught in hotel lobbies, lipstick on collars. They don't imagine her face flickering on a stranger's screen, edited in 4K, angled for attention. They don't imagine a man quietly slipping away from everything he built, not with rage, but with resignation. But that's how it ends, sometimes. Quietly. One morning, my brother tossed a manila envelope onto the kitchen table while chewing a protein bar. From Hannah, he said. Delivered by courier. Real subtle. I stared at it. Didn't move. Inside was a typed letter. No salutation. Just lines spaced neatly like a job application. I understand if you never want to speak to me again. I've deleted everything. What wasn't mine to keep is gone. He's out of my life. That world is gone. I don't want to sell myself to anyone again. Not because you asked me to. Because I finally realized I was trying to disappear, and I almost succeeded. I know it's too late. But I loved you. I never stopped. I just lost the version of myself that knew how to show it. I hope one day, you find peace. I hope it's okay if I still hope it's with me. H. I read it twice. Then I folded it, placed it back inside the envelope, and tucked it beneath my pillow. I didn't know why. Maybe because pain is easier to carry when it's written down. That weekend, I took a drive. No destination. I let the roads decide, passing through pine-lined highways and shuttered gas stations, the kind of rural places that feel untouched by time. The sun was setting by the time I pulled off near a rest stop I didn't recognize. There was a trail. No signs. Just a narrow dirt path winding into the trees. I remembered the Crater Lake note. The trail we never hiked. I wasn't there yet, not geographically. But symbolically? Maybe. I walked. I walked until the woods swallowed the noise, until my lungs hurt, until I couldn't hear anything but my own footsteps and the creak of branches overhead. At some point, I sat on a rock and watched the wind move through the trees like it was breathing with me. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a ghost. I felt anchored. Not whole. Not healed. But present. That night, I dreamed of her. Not the woman in the videos. Not the liar. The real Hannah. The one from our first apartment, when we ate on the floor because we couldn't afford a table. The one who cried during Pixar movies and always left the cap off the toothpaste. In the dream, she didn't say anything. She just reached out and placed her hand over mine. And when I woke up, I didn't feel panic. I felt release. Back at the apartment, my brother was gone. A note on the fridge said, "Beer in the fridge. Soap in the shower. Don't do anything stupid." I laughed. I actually laughed. Later that night, I found myself holding the flash drive. Not to destroy it. Not to watch it. Just to feel the weight of it, to remind myself that truth can be held in your hand, even when it's unbearable. I placed it in a box, taped it shut, wrote one word on top. Past. I didn't know if I'd ever forgive her. I didn't know if I'd ever trust again. But I knew this. I had survived the fall. And now, I could choose what came next. I didn't go back to her. But I didn't erase her either. People think betrayal leaves a clean scar, a before and after, a switch flipped. But it doesn't. It lingers in the muscles, in the corners of memories you thought were safe. It echoes when the coffee tastes too familiar or the wind smells like the soap she used to wear. Some days I hated her. Some days I missed her. Some days I didn't feel anything at all. I moved into a small rental near the coast, just me and Molly. The house is nothing special. One bedroom, old plumbing, creaky floors that complain in the night. But the windows face west, and when the sun sets, the sky looks like it's bleeding gold into the sea. That matters more than I expected. Every evening, I walk the beach. Same stretch. Same footprints. One night, I passed a couple, young, barefoot, arguing about something stupid. He was waving his hands. She was rolling her eyes but smiling. And I thought, they don't know yet. They don't know how easy it is to become strangers inside a shared house. How trust isn't something you lose all at once, but in 1,000 silent withdrawals. How love can still exist in someone who's lying to your face. They don't know that the person you curl up with could be filming themselves for someone else the next morning. And maybe that's mercy. Or maybe it's cruelty, cloaked as romance. Either way, I walked past them without a word, their laughter swallowed by the tide. I still get messages from her sometimes. A birthday wish. A book recommendation. A photo of Molly in her Halloween costume from last year. I never reply. But I read them all. Because forgiveness doesn't always come in a speech. Sometimes it shows up as silence, the kind that doesn't demand anything back. The flash drive still sits in that taped box, buried in the back of a closet I rarely open. I haven't touched it since. Maybe one day I'll throw it into the ocean. Or maybe I'll keep it forever, not as a grudge, but as proof that I survived something that nearly undid me. I've started writing again. Nothing big. Just short pieces. Stories about people trying to find their way back to themselves. It helps. So does the sound of waves. There's something about the ocean, the way it pulls and still returns to shore. The way it carries your screams without ever asking what hurt you. Some nights, I sit on the sand, dog by my side, and imagine a version of myself that never found that folder. Never saw those videos. Never heard the word compartmentalize. But then I remind myself. That version of me is dead. And the man I am now. He's quieter. Stronger. Less trusting, maybe. But more honest. I don't know if that makes me better. But it makes me real. And that has to be enough.